So now to place a dimension, we will cover most of these dimensions, not all of them, but the most important ones. And let's just start with this quick dimension. The quick dimension is kind of a go-to option if you know what you would like to measure and you just would like to pick it up and let the software recognize what that is. Like, I mean, if you click here and you click on a line, for example, the software just simply measures that line.
So it's aligned automatically.
And it's automatically aligned. And that is the other thing here. For example, there's a curve here. If I click on it, the software recognizes, okay, I should measure perhaps the diagonal or the radius, or sometimes even the perimeter. But this is just simply picking up that this is a circle, so the default setting is the diameter. So this is a go-to, but if you would like to be more specific, you will use other tools. For example, you would like to measure length, but not likely the whole length of this thing, but perhaps a distance between this corner and this corner. In this case, you will likely use perhaps the align dimension. The align dimension is a very simple. This is kind of the most primitive tool, which is just based on 2 clicks and then it measures. So you just use this one and click on the point, the first point, the second point, and by default it will just simply measure the total length.
And it's aligned based on the points that you picked.
Yeah, and it's aligned with my 2 clicks. But in this specific case, I'm not that happy with this because I either would like to see this vertical or the horizontal distance, but not this real distance. So this is a tool which allows you to actually, during runtime, switch between modes. The default mode is the real distance. The second mode, which I'm activating with the right click, is the horizontal component of this distance. And if I right click again, it will switch to the vertical component, and then I just click here and the software places that measurement. So whichever component I like, I just move it someplace, click, and then I just continue working and adding more and more dimensions. This is the simplest and most primitive tool to use if you would like to pick up 2 random points and then just measure their distances in anywhere in your drawing.
I understand that there are some more automated ways to measure things in ARCHLine.
Yes, what I like to use, let's jump a little bit because I will cover these later. Let's jump a little bit because if this is a building, you should use the walls dimensions a lot because this actually gives you a list of possibilities that when you select one of these and click on add, you can actually build up a kind of a task list for the software.
In terms of what to measure.
Yes, yes, and this is also kind of a task order. So it will do first this, and after this, and after this. So this is the order how it executes this task which I give it. And the task is that okay, I'm picking this wall, and then I paste the first dimension string someplace here and do the rest. And the software automatically measures everything based on my previous selection that it should measure the, for example, in this case, the axis of the window or door, the distance between the walls and the thicknesses of the walls and the total length. So this is what it measures. So whenever I click, if I click here, it's doing the same thing around everywhere. Now there is also a tool which allows you to actually just quickly select the whole drawing. And that's here, it's the ovals. This allows you to do totally the same thing, but in this case you can select the whole drawing, and then when you hit enter, you can actually place this dimension. Let me just place it someplace here so we are not colliding with all the rest of the drawing. So it's actually trying to digest as much as possible from this drawing, not everything, but as much as possible. You can move these someplace else if you don't like it. For example, this is too far, so I'm clicking here and I'm saying, okay, let's right click here, and I'm actually trying to move this whole thing someplace here, and after this one here and after this one here. But this is not what I would like to do. I don't want to move them one by one. So in that case, you can actually select the total. We call it a dimension string, and then you can move that. Going back to this part where we talked about the continuous dimension, and I would like to also show you. I would like to talk about these well as the continuous dimension is something that you can use as a series of dimension. And then you can pick up, for example, these 2 points, say, I would like to see a dimension here, and then you just progress
keep on picking the points
forward and pick things, and then it's just, you know, continuously adding those things up to the first part. You cannot go backwards because it will tell that, okay, we already progressed that way, why should we turn around? So in that case, you just start another one, but this is a very fast way to document any sort of things that you just would like to be specific and pick points and one by one from the drawing. If you would like to be even more quick on things that you can actually intersect with a line and just quick dimension those, there's also an option for that, and that's the same thing, the same place here, the continuous dimensions, and it's the same serial dimension. You can actually pick up horizontal, vertical, or slanted with any sort of chosen degree. And that's the whole thing that I'm about to talk now. It's the quote, the virtual intersection. It's just, it's a long name. Let's discuss it with an example. It's just you pick this point. See, I'm intersecting this line. I'm intersecting this line, and this line, and even this one. And then now when I move my mouse and I place it somewhere, let's just place it to the same place. The software actually intersected everything, even in this case, even the section line, so I should remove it. But anyway, actually it intersects everything, and it's just auto measures everything, and it's just very fast. If you work on sections, if you work on elevations or simple room distances inside the drawing, you would like to quick
just
pick.
have to create just one continuous line, and everything would be
just
measured.
Slice it and it will measure automatically. So this is a very, very quick tool, and this way, you know, creating the documentation is kind of tedious. It's very time consuming sometimes,
yes,
but with
yes,
these tools it's much faster. You can go around and quickly add dimensions. And one important thing about these dimensions are by default, for example this specific here, they are associative. That means they are actually linked to the thing that they measured. I mean, let's say somehow the design changed, and we found that this should not be centered because it is not looking good from the outside. So I'm just changing the distance to something else. Okay, let's say it's this one. Let me just. So I would like to show what happens here. So I've just enlarged this. So it's 0.3. See, now it's automatically updated here.
Because the center point moved, so with the windows. Yeah,
so the center point is somewhere else, so the dimension updates by itself. Now, there is one thing that you should consider doing if you are in a situation like that, that actually you can break this associativity connection link to these items if you want. There could be a scenario when you would like to do. So to demonstrate that, I will break the connection between this and the window. The other one won't break. And this you can find in the edit and change dimension to non-associative. So I just click on this one, enter. So the connection is broken. I cannot see it, but when I make another change, let's just move it back to where it was. It was 0.7. See, now this reacts to the change, but the other one
doesn't.
So yeah. So let's just undo this because I'm more happy with this associative.
It's better to keep them connected.
Thing, but yeah, and one another thing, you can shape how these dimensions look like. I will go deeper to the settings with this one because this is a good representation of what I'm about to talk about now. But there is one another thing is if you click here and you would like to change the text of this one. First things first. It's a measured value, so you should change the thing that you measured instead of changing the text. But you can actually click here and change the text if you want. And for your surprise, you won't see the value. Yes, you will see a hash mark, and that means that whatever you see there, it's measured. It's automatically generated by the software. That's why you cannot see 2.19 there. Instead of that, you can see the hash mark. That tells you that the software measured this value. But actually, you can use this for a very interesting thing. For example, when you work with, I don't know, furniture, you can say, okay, this is the width of that something, with measured value. Okay, so it will appear like that.
So that's how you can add text to a dynamic field.
Yeah. So you can keep the dynamic context of this thing, and you can also add some static text if you would like to do that. I'm just undone that, but you can use these for specific measurements all around the drawing.
Before we go more into the styles and how to make them look like that, there's one automated measurement I want you to show us, and that's the lamps and light sources.
Yeah,
and
that's-
sockets, because I noticed that we have a lot of sockets and switches
cool,
on
yeah.
this.
Yeah, well, those are specific measurements. As you can see, these are kind of more like architectural specific measurements. We can argue about that, but those are mostly arcs and angles and lengths and things like that. But these are specific to the interior. And if I would like to, I can measure a cabinet here. I can add a distance measurement for switches and sockets, which I will do. I think I'll just do it here. So I just pick up the wall and I just place it somewhere here. I think I will confuse
Yes.
the measurements with this one, but it's quite nice. So the software just simply picks the same side and it measures the socket position from the two corners. And when you move it, it will react to that change. So you can repeat the same thing
How
here.
about lights?
About the lights, you can use this lamps on wall. This automatic tool will measure only based on the same principles, windows that lamps that are attached to walls.
Oh, so mounted on either walls or ceilings.
Yeah, not ceilings. This is specific for walls.
Yes.
Yeah. If you would like to measure the ceiling lamps, you should use the other ones. But this one is automated for the lamps on the walls. I think I have these here. So I just pick this up and it will automatically measure it. The distance is not that perfect, but I can make it different. And then there is also a tool that is allowing you to manage the elevations of either these lamps, or in case of switches and sockets you have the same option. Manage elevations, it's called manage elevations because you have actually 4 different options how to represent and erase and represent these things. If I'm about to use the all elevations option, it's an automated tool that is just tracking and keep on searching these things, and wherever it finds some socket or switch or anything else, it will just place this elevation next to it. That's how.
Now I see a lot of values where rounding is added, and I think this is the point where we talk about the styles again, just to show how you can set this up, because that's one way how they look like, but maybe you want to customize these measurements and dimensions.
Yeah. Well, for example, this specific way of representing the value is based on 2 things. If I select this, I can tell you why it's looking like that. It is based on the settings that we can see here. And first things first, we can see the value so accurate like this because it is round up to 0.5 centimeters. If I change this to a different standard, let's make it 1 centimeter, so the accuracy is actually half a centimeter less in the measurement, it will just change the rounding. Well, I'm happy with that. I know that the real value is a few millimeters larger or smaller, but and it's actually still measuring the same distance. It's just how it represents the value.
Yes.
You can go back to change the settings, and you can actually change something like DIN, and in that case you can even change the unit system that you are using. You can change to millimeters and then say, okay, about to represent
But only
it like
for
this.
this measurement, right? So you didn't save this as a style, you just decided that this should be a...
Yes, if I want, I can do that. I can just go and let's say, okay, let's just add the new style and just like say, these are length dimensions for millimeters, in millimeters or something like that. And also, I think it's worth talking about that you can use not only the metric system, but you can use also feet and inches. Let's just switch it here. And let's say, okay, I'm happy with this. Let's see how it looks like. This is how it's represented in feet and inches. And I even can set up
the fractional digits.
The
So
fractional digits,
if you
yeah.
measure in fourths or eighths or even 30 seconds,
Yeah.
then that's how you can do it. So you can set this up based on what you do. I know that many industries out there are using different fractionals, but that's the way to do it. It's a recurring question on whether ARCHLine supports imperial units. It does. You can set up the default units in the setting of the software, but if for whatever reason you want to create a secondary measurement style which has a different setup, this is how you can do it.
Well, actually, that's 2 different things, just as you mentioned. One is the system which you're working in, and the other one is the system where you represent those things designed in one sort of system. So I can still work in millimeters or meters and represent my values in feet and inches, and the other way around. So this is part of an documentation issue where you decide of how you represent these values.